Hello and welcome to True Guidance Tarot. I'm Adriana Teodoro-Dier. I'm a spiritual medium and intuitive reader. I've got a message for Gemini today. And to let you know how this works, I've asked my guides in spirit to bring a message through the cards that will be deeply beneficial and helpful for you as you navigate what's going on in your world this week. And if you are new to the channel, welcome, and I'm so glad you're here. I strongly invite you to subscribe to this channel so you can stay in contact with this high vibration information every week. And if you are returning to the channel, so glad to see you, and I deeply appreciate your presence as well as your support and your time and energy. So let's go ahead and get started with your reading. Gemini, this is an interesting week talking about choices and consequences. We have the Seven of Cups energy, which the universe presents to you this week. Now, this is a little bit of a, I want to say a chameleon kind of energy. Although I just learned that chameleons don't actually change their color depending on their surroundings. They change it depending on their mood. So, little interesting fact for you there. It seems like the universe is presenting you with a lot of options, but they're going to come through your own energy, your own filter in the, this is a strong word, in the energy of delusions. Things that aren't really possible, or really, they're not really practical, and they're not necessarily even really good for you, but they are so tantalizing. It's so inviting to get lost in a fantasy world, dreaming about all these possibilities of what they could be. There's 6 in here, and then there's one solid, tangible one. But this figure is not even paying attention to the tangible choice. Now, what's really interesting to me is that you take up the Ace of Swords. So it's kind of like, well, but I know what I'm going to do. I know which way I'm going to go with this. And that's good. That's good. You felt this impulse. You feel this inspiration that it's, you know which choice to make. But I think we need to look a little bit deeper at what the choices are, because I feel like this is really between a choice of 1 or 2. And one thing or another thing. It's not necessarily 6 things like literally what's being presented in the card. But what's very important to think about is which one is going to nourish your soul. Because I see from this that you do have a strong desire to nourish your soul. This color here is this interesting greeny blue. So it's coming out of the subconscious. It's coming out of the language of the soul. But this is sent by the universe almost like it's almost like a devil figure, kind of something that's not real, to kind of test, is that true? Are you really wanting that? And are you able to discern which one is for your soul and which one is not? So we have this interesting spread and interesting cards. We've got the 10 of Wands. We have the World card, and we have the Hanged Man. So the World card is kind of the middle talking about the wholeness of you and your soul, that more of your soul comes into you in making this choice. There's a particular soul direction that this card knows. And on the opposite sides, we have these 2 very different cards. So let's talk about them for a second. We've got the Hanged Man, who is representing a sacrifice in this particular card. But it's also the idea of surrendering, that in choosing your soul, it actually involves surrendering the ego. And that's not something that's easy or always comfortable to do, because our ego is something that teaches us to survive in the world. Our ego keeps us alive, and our ego wants to keep us alive. But when you ask the ego to surrender to control to the soul, it tends to go, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. And so in order to achieve the bigger picture, you may be being asked to give up something of yourself, whether that's control, whether that's knowing, whether that's being tied to a particular outcome of something. You're being asked, this is a big, really big picture kind of thing. This is not like, choose this person over this person. This is like talking to your soul, talking to yourself, and understanding which way you're being asked to go. Because on the other side is the 10 of Wands, This is the burdens of the ego. This is the responsibilities. This is the things that we carry that we don't actually need to carry, but that our ego tells us we have to carry. You know, if I don't do this, I won't be important. If I don't do this, I won't be needed. If I don't do this, then I won't really have a status. If I don't do this, or if I'm not this, then I won't have any respect. That kind of thing. It's everything that we carry from the outside in. Titles, identification as certain roles, masks that we wear, maybe that's a good way to put it, different kind of personas that we wear. And it takes a lot of strength to carry all of these. And what's interesting is the world is not saying to you that either path is right or wrong. What it's saying is that this path of holding on to the ego much longer is going to be a longer journey, and you will become stronger because of it, but it is a longer journey. This one is a shorter path of surrendering to the desire of your soul and being able to give up your identity in some ways. I had a friend look at this card and she couldn't tell, even though it's clear because this figure is naked, part of it does seem to have some feminine attributes as well. You can't really tell if it's a man or a woman, but it's the idea of surrendering to it. So let me see if I can get any more information about what exactly they're talking about. Okay, that's interesting. So this is also about empowering the choice, that the desire to do. We've got wands and we've got swords. We've got wands and swords on the side of the wand card. So that masculine energy that wants to go, wants to be. And again, that ego self that tells us who we are, and that has to tell other people who we are as well. When that's running the show, the path is longer. You're still going to get there. The path is longer and it's harder. But when we're on the feminine side of things, pentacles and cups, earth and water, when we just let go, and we don't have a need to have an identity. We don't have a need to prove ourselves. We don't have a need to, I want to say, make our mark. We don't have any of that. We're almost without ego. I don't know the name of this guy. He's called the Hanged Man. He's basically just telling me what's happening to him. He's being hanged and he's a man. He has no identity beyond that. He's a function. And that's just it. The ego is a function of the soul. The ego is to be in service of the soul, to say, hey soul, what is it that you want me to do? Where do we go today? What unfolds for us today? And it has no attachment to what happens with that unfolding. And so it doesn't get to have control over the outcome. It doesn't get to have control over who it becomes, what it attracts, any of that. It completely surrenders to that unfolding of the soul. So this was kind of deep and heady stuff, Gemini. So if you've got questions, definitely reach out. But just understand that plurality of choice given to you by the Seven of Cups is also a trap of the ego. So I feel the universe is really testing you here to find out which side of the coin you're on. So again, if you have questions, please reach out in the comments below. I always look forward to hearing from you, and I love hearing from you. And I wanted to let you know as well, I do offer intuitive readings over Zoom. You can find out more at trueguidancetarot.com. There is also a Phoenix Path program for those of you that are really awakening and opening to the calling of your soul and need a little bit more support. So I invite you to check all of that out, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great week.